Mrs. Johnson here with math tutorial in section 5-10, and that's solving fractional equations with multiplication and division. You can find that on pages 274 through 277 in your textbook. So I'm here with third period. Third period, say hey. 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 So you guys, this stuff is going to look scary, but it's so not. Okay, let's review first. We have already done equations with, let's see, a plus 1/3 equals 5/6, right? Who's bothering the variable? 1/3. A is the variable, guys. 1/3 is on its side of the equation. Remember, this is like a wall. The thing that's bothering the variable on his side is the 1/3. So it is a positive 1/3, so what do we do to get rid of it? We subtract 1/3. That does get rid of it, and minus 1/3 here, this is going to be our problem to solve to find out what the variable is. Okay? The same, I'm not going to solve it, but same thing for subtracting. Let's say we have 3 equals 5, x minus 5/8. Okay? So who's bothering the variable? 5/8. What's happened in between them? Subtracting. So what do you do to get rid of it? You add. So plus 5/8 and plus 5/8, and then this will give you your answer to what x is. Well, today we're doing equations again, and they're going to have fractions in them again. But instead of it being adding and subtracting equations, what do you think it's going to be now? Multiplication and division equations. So let's review how to do that with whole numbers first. Your attention needs to be up here, please, boys and girls, everybody. So the way that we saw division ones were two ways. A divided by 5 equals 6. That was one way, right? Or you could have seen it like this. We've already seen problems like this, right? So who's bothering the variable? 5. What's happening between them? Division. And this says it's division, and this says it's division too. That's the same problem. So what do we do to get rid of the 5? You multiply by 5, okay? And multiply by 5 on this side, so A gives you 30. It's 30. Okay, now let me show you with this one what to do. So it's A divided by 5 equals 6. And remember before, I told you just write times 5 out here, and I said just trust me, it gets rid of it. Okay? We hadn't learned what to do with fractions yet, but now we know. So I'm going to put a line down here. We put the 5 over 1, right? So it's 5 times A and 1 times 5. So it gives me 5A over 5. What's 5 divided by 5? 1A. Didn't that get the A by itself? That's why it gets it by itself. But now to keep it equivalent, we have to multiply this by 5 as well. So A equals 30. You have seen these before. They just look a little different now. Okay? So that was a division problem. Now let's do a multiplication problem. All right. Now we've got, let's say, 1/4 times x equals 6. Okay? This is now what's bothering the variable, 1/4. And what's happening between the 1/4 and the x? It is multiplying. Guys, look at it like this. 1/4 times x, right? It's multiplying. So how do you get rid of it then? You divide. And I would just write it divide by 1/4. So what's 1/4 divided by 1/4? 1, right? So did you get the variable by itself? Yes. Now what do you do to this side? Divide by 1/4. Now what does this say? It says 6 over 1/4, but what does that really say? 6 divided by 1/4. Now you've got to use what you learned yesterday. What do I have to put this over, Juan, the 6? 1. Very good. Now I have both fractions, so what do I have to do? What are the 3 words to remember? Keep, change, flip. Excellent. So it's 6 over 1. Keep that. Change it to multiplication and flip the second one. So it's 24 over 1. So what does x equal? 24. So you have done these before. It just looks a little bit different now. Okay? Questions so far? So far, so good? Well, it's not just like yesterday because you were only dividing yesterday. So you had to keep, change, flip. But in this case, yes, you were dividing, so you do have to do the steps that you did yesterday. Only if you're dividing do you keep change flip. Okay? If you're multiplying, you make them both fractions and multiply across. Got it? Yes. Yes. Do you see what he's saying? He said, isn't a fraction, when you have a fraction, isn't it technically a division problem? You're so smart, Scott. Okay, here we go. Watch. You have 1/4 x. Can't you say, put the x right there? So really, isn't it x over 4 equals 6? Yeah. So then you could multiply by 4, and x equals 24. That's two different ways of doing it. But I don't want to confuse people, so we'll just leave it with the first way, okay, Scott? You understand what Scott's saying? Yeah. This is really another way of saying this, 1/4 x equals 6. That's really the same problem. Okay? Got it? Okay. Here, let me explain that a little better. 1/4 times x, really it's x over 1, right? Equals 6. So really, couldn't you write that like this, x over 4? Yeah. So yes. Okay? All right. Now let's go to our notes. The step to solve fractional equations with multiplication and division is the same as it's always been. Determine who is bothering the variable. How do you isolate the variable? Determine what operation is happening between those two numbers. Is it multiplying? Is it dividing? If it is multiplying, then you divide. If it is division, then you multiply. Okay? So in the first example, it says a divided by 10 equals 1/5. So, Christian, who's bothering the variable? A. A is the variable. 10 is bothering the variable. And everybody, what does this symbol mean to do right here? Divide. Okay. So it's a divided by 10. I'm going to rewrite it real quick. Equals 1/5. You should be writing this with me. Now, how do I get rid of that 10 since it's division? I multiply by 10. Very good. So I'm going to multiply by 10. And really, that's 10a over 10, which gives me 1a, right? I don't have to show all that work, but that's why it gets rid of it. 10 times a over 10 gives me 1a, because 10 divided by 10 is 1. Everybody understand that? Alberto, you okay with that? You're multiplying 10 times a, you get 10a over 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. That's why it gets rid of it. Okay? Now, to keep it the same, we have to multiply this side by 10 also. But what should I put that 10 over? 1. Now, do I keep change flip when I'm multiplying? No, you only do that when you're doing what? Dividing. Very good. So multiply across. We get 10 over 5. So a equals 2, because 5 divided into 10 is 2. We don't put 2 and 0/5, guys. We just put 2. All right, the next one. Remember, look at this one like that. What's happening between the 1/4 and the d? Multiplication. So how do you get rid of it? You divide by 1/4. 1/4 divided by 1/4 gives me 1d, right? Then to keep it equivalent, what do I have to do to this side? Divide by 1/4 also. So I'm going to go ahead and put divided by 1/4 on that side. That's my problem now. So I'm going to rewrite this problem down here. So it's 2 divided by 1/4. Oh my goodness. Why did I divide by 4? It's divided by 1/4. Sorry. It's divided by 1/4. Yes, Christian. Okay. Can we finish this one and then we'll go back to number 1, because the question for the first example should have been asked during the first example. Okay? All right. So we're going to finish the second example first. So it's 2 divided by 1/4. What do I have to put the 2 over? 1. Now, since it's division, what are the 3 magic words? Keep, change, flip. So I'm going to put KCF because it's division. So keep the first, multiply by the reciprocal. So that equals 8 over 1. So D equals 8. There's my answer. Okay, Christian, what was your question on number 1? How did I get 2? Okay. 10 is bothering the variable. It was dividing, so I multiplied by 10 on both sides. Do you understand that step? Okay. Multiply by 10 on this side. That gives me 10a over 10, which gives me 1a. Okay? equals 1/5 times 10 over 1 as well. I have to put the 10 over 1. Do you understand that far?
Yes.
Okay, 1 times 10 gives me 10. 5 times 1 gives me 5. 5 divided into 10 is 2, and I don't have any leftovers. Okay. Any questions on number 2? Okay, let's go on to number 3. Who is bothering the variable? Boys and girls, we have h divided by 5. What's bothering the variable again?
5.
I heard some h's in there. It's 5. Okay, what's happening between the variable and 5? Dividing. So how do I undo division? You multiply. You multiply by what?
5.
Very good. If I multiply by 5 on this side, that gives me 5 times h, which is 5h, over 5. 5 into 5 is 1, so that gets rid of it. It's just h equals. Then what do I have to do to this side? Multiply again. 5 times 5 gives me 25. Any questions on that one? Most of these answers on your homework, guys, are going to be whole numbers. There's going to be like 2 or 3 fractions, but most of them will be whole number answers. Okay? All right. You guys go ahead and do the try it. If you are watching the podcast, go ahead and pause it, see if you get the right answer, and then replay it to get me to go over it. Hang on. Go. Okay, the first one, we have 6 equals b divided by 5. Everybody who's bothering the variable? 5. What's happening between them? Everyone? Division. So how do I get rid of division? Very good. We multiply by 5 on this side. That gives me 5b over 5. Multiply by 5 on this side. So b equals 30. It's my first one. And does that make sense? 30 divided by 5 equals 6? Yes, that's okay. All right. Any questions on that one? The second one, we've got s divided by 15 equals 2/3. So who's bothering the variable? 15. What's happening between them? How do you get rid of it? Multiply by 15. That gets rid of it because it's 15s over 15, which gives me 1s when I divide. Then times 15 over here. I'm going to rewrite my problem down here. Guys, am I going to be keeping, changing, flipping on this? No, because it's not what? Division. It's multiplication. You only keep, change, flip on division. This is multiplying. It says multiplying. All right. So I can cross cancel, though, can't I? So that's 10 over 1 equals 10. If you got 30 over 3 and put 10, that's fine. So s equals 10. And the last one, we have 1/3 times s. Remember, this is times s equals 4. So who's bothering the variable? 1/3. What are they doing? Multiplying. They are multiplying. How do you get rid of it then? You divide. So divide by 1/3. That gives you 1s. Divide by 1/3 here. So it's 4 divided by 1/3. What do I put the 4 over? I put it over 1. Now what 3 words am I going to use in this case? Because we're doing what? It's division. So we have to keep, change, flip. So it's 4 over 1, keep, change to multiplication, flip the second. So you've got 12 over 1, and s equals 12. And 1/3 of 12 is 4, actually. Okay? Any questions on those? All right, let's go over the word problems. Turn your paper over, please. And I'm going to go over it with you because your worksheet has problems like this, and then you can work them out, okay? So the number of t-shirts is multiplied by 1/2, and the product is 18. So let's read that again. The number of t-shirts, which we don't know, is multiplied by 1/2, and the product is 18. So it's 1/2 times what? T-shirts equals, what did they tell me the product was? Everybody, come on.
18.
They told me the product was 18. Okay, so who's bothering the variable? 1/2. What's happening between them? Multiplication. So what do I do to get rid of it? Divide by 1/2. That gets rid of it. Divide by 1/2 here. So I'm going to rewrite it. 18 over 1 divided by 1 over 2. What do I have to do? Keep, change, flip. Okay? So it's 18 over 1. Keep that. Change to multiplication. flip the second one, and it is 36 over 1, which equals 36. So T equals 36. And the last one, the number of students is divided by 18, and the quotient is 1/6. So the number of students is divided by 18. So what am I going to put? N over what? It's divided by 18. And what is the quotient? What does it say the quotient is? 1/6. It says the quotient is 1/6. So 18 is bothering the variable. It's division. So Corbin, how do I get rid of it? Multiply by 18. Excellent. I'm going to put a line down here. So times 18 gives me 18n over 18, which gives me 1n. Then times 18 here. Now, am I keeping, changing, flipping here? Because it's not what? It's not division. What is it? Multiplying. So I'm going to rewrite my problem down here. Times 18 over what? 1. Can I cross cancel? Yes, because it's multiplying. So 6 into 6 is 1, and 6 into 18 is 3. So 3 times 1 gives me 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. So n equals 3. Okay, were there any questions? I hear a couple questions out there. What's up? No questions? All right. Your worksheet tonight is actually not in the workbook. I'm handing it out right now. You only have to do the odds. The reason I didn't do the one in the workbook is because those are more difficult. I wanted to give you the easier ones. So please just do the odds on this, and make sure that you put the answers on the worksheet so that it's easier to grade, and show your work on a separate piece of paper. Please, please, please. Those of you watching the podcast, have a good night.